Well, I get into a lot of fights on Twitter and YouTube for that matter. I'm one of the few that actually posts up videos and then hangs around and argues with people. People tell me I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to put up my videos and leave them alone and let my followers take care of the malcontents. But I can't help it. I need to get in there and give my 2 cents. And so the debates go back and forth, back and forth. And sooner or later, you kind of know when your opponent has had enough, when their arguments start to fail. There are a couple of things that they do. Oh, number one is, well, I don't understand why someone like you is spending so much time. What, are you obsessed with a young kid? I already have a dumb argument video on that one. I'll let you watch that on your own. But when they start saying that, you kind of know you've got them on the ropes. There's another one. That's the one we're going to talk about today. It usually takes place after you've had a long, lengthy legal debate. And they say, oh, are you a lawyer? How many courses in law have you had? You think you know the law? Do they have a point? Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
Interestingly enough, those who complain, are you a lawyer? Often have no trouble arguing for Kyle's guilt, even though they're not lawyers. How dare you talk about self-defense laws? Are you a lawyer? Well, are you? You're arguing that Kyle is guilty. That is a legal conclusion. What is your legal background to be able to make such a statement, make such a claim? So there's a hypocrisy involved here. I can argue that a person should be put away for the rest of their life because I know what murder is. Oh, but you are trying to argue for the defense of self-defense? Oh, are you a lawyer? See the inconsistency there? One of the misconceptions that people have about the law, this especially pertains to criminal law, is that somehow criminal law is written in this Latin and Greek stuff that no one besides a lawyer well steeped in Latin and Greek would be able to possibly decode. Well, that's simply not true. The law basically states that citizens are expected to know the law, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. And so there's no point in having such a rule if you don't make the laws in plain language. And if you go and read the laws, they are actually written in very much plain language. Now, one of the things that they often do is that they have very long sentences. And the reason why is they don't want people to cherry pick sentences out of context. And so they build these long, long sentences with lots and lots of semicolons, and you have to take those things very slowly. And there are also a lot of minefields with the Boolean operators, and or. So when you see and this and or that, you have to kind of underline, you have to diagram it very carefully. But if you're willing to put in the time, you can learn the law. It's not that hard. However, when I say you have to put in the time, there are some things that people don't do that leads them astray. And one of those is they don't go in and look at the case law relevant to the case. And they also don't look at the footnotes. They just read the item and they assume at that point that they know what the law is about, and they go and post it on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. They end up getting it wrong. So let's take a little of an example here. This is 948.60, possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18. Gee, this is kind of relevant to the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting. And this is an extremely important statute in terms of his minor in possession, because this pretty much defines it. And it says Section 1. In this section, dangerous weapon means any firearm, loaded or unloaded, any electric weapon, as defined in this other section, metallic knuckles or knuckles of any substance which could be put to the same use with the same or similar effect as metallic knuckles. You see, this isn't written in Latin or Greek. This is really quite easy to understand. And they got nunchaku and all other things that they're going to list here. Now let's go to section 2. I mean, we're talking about an automatic or semi-automatic rifle here, so it's clearly a dangerous weapon. Ask JoJo and Anthony Huber and Gage Grosskreutz if the AR-15 is a dangerous weapon. And it says, Section A, any person under 18 years of age who possesses or goes armed with a dangerous weapon is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. Now, of course, a lot of people are missing the misdemeanor part, but that's okay. But keep in mind, look how easy that is to read. There's nothing unambiguous about it. If you're 18 years of age and you go around with a dangerous weapon, then you're guilty of a misdemeanor. Almost. And this is where the amateur lawyer starts to kind of lose sight of things. And I am an amateur lawyer, but I put more care into this than most people. And that is, you have to continue reading on. You can't just take your little snip tool and snip that and stick it in and try to win a debate, because it doesn't work like that. The only one that actually tries to get away with that, who is a lawyer, is ADA Binger. Okay, so let's go ahead and read on. Part B is about giving or selling somebody a weapon that's not pertaining to Kyle Rittenhouse. Could pertain to Dominic Black. That's another argument. And this is where things get kind of juicy. This section applies only to a person under 18 years of age who possesses or is armed with a rifle or a shotgun if the person is in violation of this section 941.28 or is not in compliance with subsections 29.304 and 29.593. Now, I'm not going to go through those because I've already done so. I have a video where I went through all these elements and all these sections and summarized them for you. We read them line by line. And my conclusion as well, I'll tell you about that in a moment, but that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to show that you have to read down. You have to continue reading. You can't stop as soon as you find something that you like. Here, to find out if this section applies to Kyle, I actually have to go in and read these sections, 941.28, 29.304, and 29.593. And when you do, an issue kind of comes up as to whether Kyle is guilty of this misdemeanor or not. Again, that was all discussed in another video. I'll let you watch that one some other time. Another thing you have to do is you have to go back and look at the statutes. Here's the history right here. And it turns out that if you really want to know what this section is really all about, you probably should go in and start reading back. This is going to be the most recent, and then it's going to go back in time. Also, are there any footnotes that you have to read? Well, we can scroll down. The footnotes that we're going to read now, I'll just show you some example of footnotes that you would have. So this is not the same section. This is not pertaining to that section at all. I just want to give an example. But as you can see, we have the history of the legislation here, and that could be important. But you have also these footnotes that you have to read because they might provide some insight into the interpretation of the law. But keep in mind, these footnotes are written in plain language. For example here, multiple prosecutions for a continuous failure to pay child support are allowed. State versus Grayson, 172 or whatever. So in other words, it's pretty clear. If you continue to fail to pay child support, you can be prosecuted again and again. This is not hard. It's not Latin. It's not Greek. So the main point I'm trying to get across is that as long as you're willing to take the effort to read the statutes line by line, being careful, bending over backwards to understand the context of what everything means, you can understand the law. Now, I'm not a lawyer. However, when it comes to gun laws in Wisconsin, I am pretty knowledgeable. I already have a lot of background in self-defense law. I'm not a lawyer, but I have reviewed those for a long, long time because I'm a gun owner. So I came to the table knowing quite a bit about gun laws. That does not make me an expert, doesn't even make me well informed because we're talking about Wisconsin. And so what did I do? The very first thing, I dived into the Wisconsin statutes and the case law to determine what are Wisconsin's takes on self-defense. And do I have to be a lawyer to be able to do that? No. I just have to be careful and persistent. The big mistake is made when lawyers weigh in on the Kyle Rittenhouse saga who have not read Wisconsin statutes. A civil lawyer has very little chance of being able to comment on this case in a meaningful manner unless he or she has dived into the statutes very deeply. Even a criminal defense lawyer is at a disadvantage if they're from Michigan or Arizona. Completely different laws. In terms of understanding what self-defense is in Wisconsin, I am very knowledgeable. The only ones I know that would know more than me are self-defense lawyers in Wisconsin, or those who have picked up on the Kyle Rittenhouse thing or some other self-defense case and have done a deep dive. So this idea somehow that because I'm a lawyer I shouldn't have any comment on this is ridiculous. It's a dumb argument. And if you can't go into the Wisconsin statutes and refute what I'm saying, that's too bad on you. Not my problem. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.